First of all, welcome everyone to this special session of a career panel discussion by 4 members of the Dean's Circle. My name is Nidra Heckman, and I'm the chair of the Dean's Circle for this year. I work for Takeda as a director of regulatory affairs. And I'd like to just talk about a couple of ground rules. One is that everyone has been muted in order to minimize background noise. And also, we have a question and answer at the end, session at the end. So please type your questions into the chat. If you do have any questions, only questions that need some clarification during the presentation, that's okay to ask. Otherwise, the questions can be at the end. And I'd like to thank the students. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we're here to talk about STEM careers. We're here to support your endeavors to obtain high quality education at Cal Poly. And we want to also talk about some areas like diversity and inclusion and imposter syndrome. We'd like to try to address some of those in our own career paths. So as I mentioned, there are 4 of us from the Dean's Circle, and I would like to introduce my 3 colleagues on the Dean's Circle. So, and I'd like to invite each one to introduce themselves. So why don't we start with Mohammed, if you could please tell us a little about yourself.
I'm Mohammed Bharani. I'm a CPA, retired CPA, and present I am involved in 3 different foundations, and all those foundations are in a different area, and I just enjoying my retirement in a way. It's and this has been a very tough year for all of us. I've spent a lot of time reading, playing poker, and keeping busy with that. And that's basically all about it. By the way, I came to Canada in 1968 and went to McGill University. So I'm probably the only guy on the panel who is not a Cal Poly alumni, but I'm so proud to be a part and a partner with Cal Poly Pomona. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeffrey, please.
Yeah, thank you. Am I on? Okay.
Yes.
Well, thanks. I'm also pleased to be a part of the group. I am a Cal Poly graduate, graduated in 1979 from the Earth Sciences Department, having studied geology and geophysics. I guess why I chose that, I liked science when I was younger, and I liked the world. I wanted to see the world, so I thought I'd combine it. And I've not been disappointed. I've had a good time. My first job title was a professional job title because I worked my way through college. I came from a large family, and there was no budget for college, but my first professional job title was as a research assistant at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. I started that at Cal Poly. And then I went on to USC and concentrated in geophysics, and then went into the energy industry. I've been in the energy industry for 40 years now. And currently I run an engineering and consulting firm, Enegis LLC, and we cover the energy sector writ large, both for the federal sector and the private sector. We're doing a lot of work on carbon capture and storage, cutting edge work. I still practice science. I enjoy it. We've got a proposal in to the Department of Energy on ambient seismic processing as a novel technology for assessing the integrity of cap rocks for carbon storage units. As far as companies I've worked for, I mentioned JPL. I've worked for Chevron, ICF, Kaiser, and then I started Dentist about probably, I guess, 15 years ago now, almost 15 years ago now. So I think if I had to categorize myself, I'd call myself a scientist entrepreneur. That's a sweet spot. I enjoy the rigor of science, and I enjoy the business world as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mary.
Hello, I'm Mary Maggie. I'm a emerita professor at Cal Poly Pomona Physics Department. Before I retired, I taught for over 30 years in the physics department at Cal Poly, and was a department chair for 6 of those years. But even before I came to Cal Poly, I had taught at several places as an adjunct faculty, or lecturer, what we used to call, and maybe they still do, freeway flyer, where you try and piece together one full-time job by teaching at several different colleges. So before I settled at Cal Poly for good, I had taught classes not only at Cal Poly, but at Cal State Long Beach, at Cal State Fullerton, and at Cal State Northridge, as well as some community colleges, 1 or 2 courses at a time. I've also worked with high school students in a gifted and talented program, and I've served on the committees that write the physics exam, the AP physics exam, and also the GRE physics exam. Probably, I think the things that are important to my success are the fact that I really, really care about students, and I don't take myself too seriously. With that, I'm going to pass on to the next speaker.
Thank you so much for your introductions, and we're going to go ahead and proceed with the first question. Should be 2, there we are. Question 1. After you completed your education, how did you decide to embark on your career? And I'm going to call on Mohammed to speak first, and he can pass to the next panelist.
Business and enterprise type of thing. Coming from a lower middle class family, it was always the thing, you know, where I'm going to be. And I tell you, the education was very, very helpful in my profession. But most of the education I would get was on with the connecting with the people and listening to them and see how they're, you know, how they get together with my own vision of where I want to be. And the surrounding and listening to all the people as to what they were doing gave me also, really helped me with my education. And just saying that what really is out there and things, what we were taught in the school, that really helped me getting there. I'm very, you know, and education gave me this idea to be a CPA where I had the access to all the different businesses. And I think I did all right learning from the school and from the people. Thank you. Mary?
Yeah, I think I'm next. I think that rather than my choosing my career chose me. When I started college, I fortunately went to a school where I didn't have to declare a major until the end of my sophomore year. So I started out as an intended chemistry, then went to math, then went to physics. Physics felt right, so I decided to stay with it. When I was graduating, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, whether I wanted to get a job or to go to graduate school. My professors recommended that I go to graduate school. So I said, oh, maybe I'll try it for a year and see how that works out. I did. One of the things that I should mention to the students that are listening to this is something that I always had to remind my students or tell the students that I advised in the physics department. And that is that for most science students, when you go to graduate school actually pays you to go. So you can get a fellowship, which is equivalent to a scholarship, or you can get an assistantship, which required you to work in some professor's lab, or a teaching assistantship, which means that you would be teaching the lab classes for the professors at the school. So it's something that students are always surprised to know about. You're not going to get rich on one of the fellowships or assistantships, but you have enough to live on. Okay, so I was in graduate school for 1 year. I decided I liked it. I finished graduate school, got a PhD, and I remember applying for both jobs in industry and teaching. I previously mentioned that I started teaching as a freeware flyer, maybe from the standpoint, gee, maybe this is something I can do until I want to really find out what I want to do. But I discovered I liked it. I really liked it. And I think what the story or the end line to all of this is that you all should be flexible and open to new opportunities. It's okay, and in fact, it's becoming increasingly likely to have more than just one career in your lifetime. So stay open to whatever can come along. And with that, I'm going to pass it on to Jeff.
Thanks, Mary. Completed your education. Well, I honestly can say it's still a work in progress. As far as formal education, I mentioned I left Cal Poly and graduated from Cal Poly, and I went into grad school at USC. I was working at JPL the whole time. So deciding on embarking on my career, I have a couple of thoughts. I like the earth sciences. I remember the 1969 San Gabriel earthquake. I was young. I was in grammar school at the time, and that rolled through our house at about 6 o'clock in the morning, and it turned out my bed was parallel to the wavefront, and it was strong enough, it rolled me right out of bed. And I thought, that's fantastic. I want to learn more about this. It really whetted my appetite. So I think that's why I chose science. As far as choosing a field in which to apply it, I think Mary's comments resonate. I think that in today's market, it's very good to come from a specialized training, something that's analytical, and STEM certainly qualifies for that. And then you can generalize from that if you feel the need to, and have a variety of different applications. In our work, we perform a lot of different segments in energy, from policy studies to technical studies, and so it's a variety of things. And I think the skill set that you're learning now, especially with a Polytechnic University, I can say I've been around the block. I also went to Virginia Tech and got a business degree there. Polytechnic universities are good because it attracts certain type of people who like to learn about the world, can figure things out. And I will tell you, employers like that. And so embarking on your career is something, it's opportunistic to a fair degree, but I think if you have a solid foundation, you can always diversify into a lot of different things. And if you work on things that are of interest to you, it makes your career all that much more pleasant, I think. So with that, I'll turn it over to Nidra, I guess. Back to you.
Yes, and thank you all panelists for the insightful responses to question 1, and we'll go ahead and move on to question 2. Question 2, what are some social challenges that you had to, sorry, there's the video panel is right in front of the question. What are some of the social challenges that you had to deal with? And I'd like to ask Jeffrey to comment.
Oh, social challenges. I think there's a lot. I think just generally wending a way through career is a challenge in and of itself. When in preparation for this panel, we were asked about talking about the imposter syndrome. I think it's something I can talk about a little bit. When we go through school and we learn a lot and you study hard and apply yourself, either think you know it all, they crammed all this stuff in my head, or you think that you aren't good enough to make it in the world. And I think the reality is somewhere in between. School prepares you for a lot. It prepares you for analytical thinking and that sort of thing. But the real world experience, I think, is a humble teacher as well. And so, Stoffer, be flexible as you go out into the world. As far as the imposter syndrome, I think, to be honest, that comes from, especially today, I think when us on the panel went through school, it was less of an issue. When they have the social media that exists these days and things grab your attention. If one compares oneself to the end members that are present in society in your discipline, you'll come up short and you feel like you don't deserve to be where you are. So I think just have faith in yourself, have faith in where you've come from, have a plan, and be flexible because your plan will change. So I think along that way, you'll have a lot of challenges. I think they're social and otherwise. But I think with a little bit of disciplines, like getting in shape, when you start, it's tough, but you develop a discipline for it and meet some of the challenges, you can come through on the other end. Mohammed? You have to unmute, Mohammed. Still muted.
Can you hear me now? Hello?
We can hear you now, Mohammed. Please
Okay.
go ahead.
I came to Canada in 1968. I've always spoken in our native language. So when I went to school for classes, I have a hard time comprehending what the professor was saying, because in my mind, I was always translating, so I was catching up with maybe 65, 70% of what being taught. It was a big challenge, but then as I look back, I learned a lot during that process. And, social challenges coming to a country when, you're looking around, it's not the food is different, living is different, everything else, but you just turn around and learn on the thing. And I think over the period of time, it really helped to get to a point. I really think as long as you remain focused and believe in yourself, there is no social challenges you cannot come across. And I'm talking this after 52 years in this country. So I think you all would guys, have to just be very, very determined and bear with them. You'll come across people who not so nice, but most of the time you'll come across people who are very nice. And that I think should be something you have to keep in mind. You have to look things always glass half full, not half empty. Thank you. Mary, it's now you.
Okay. Social challenges I had to deal with. I think I'm going to talk about, I know I'm going to talk about two of them that I think a lot of you are facing. The first one I would like to deal with is the fact that I was a first generation college student. My father finished high school. My mother left high school at age 16 to get a job. I was an only child, so I had no older brothers or sisters. I was the first one to get through it. I also probably had it easier than a lot of you because I was in college prep classes in high school, and most of the people I dealt with in those classes were not first generation. So I was surrounded by classmates who were second or third generation. My best friend did not go in high school, did not go to college. When I got to college, I went to a small liberal arts school, which was residential. And again, there, most of the people that I encountered were not first generation. So I could kind of pick up from what they were doing. Yes, I made mistakes, but it was a good learning experience to have this community of people of all age groups or all generations. I think that's one of the reasons I think things like the first year experience classes that are now being held at Cal Poly are so important, because they put you with a group of people, and from that group of people and from your advisors and the peer mentors that you encounter with those classes, you can get a really good idea about what the expectations are. So I would definitely recommend, although I guess most of you are no longer first year students, but you might want to become mentors to first year students and extend the ability, extend the helpfulness to a new generation of students. The other challenge that I faced was that I am a female. When I was in college, I mentioned the small residential college. The year I graduated, there were 11 physics majors. 3 of us were female. That was highly unusual because for 3 to 4 years before and for 3 to 4 years after, there were no other female students that were physics majors. I think one of the things that we had going for us was the fact that it was community, it was sort of a critical mass. We all helped each other and gave each other the moral support that we needed in that type of situation. When I went on to graduate school, I was often the only female in my class. In fact, I came across a picture for my first year of graduate school. It was at a fairly large graduate school. It showed all of the graduate students and faculty. Picture had about 70 people in it. 2 of them were female. Myself as the only female graduate student, and one of the research faculty as the only faculty member there. So it was very unusual. I think by that time I was feeling pretty secure about my physics though. So it didn't bother me at the time. In fact, I was very surprised when I did see the picture. I never really experienced imposter syndrome. As I just mentioned, I felt fairly secure. I was getting really good grades in graduate school, but I kind of got the other end of that. Rather than feeling that I shouldn't be in the field, I was told that I shouldn't be in the field. I was told you don't belong competing with men, women's places in the home, from fellow graduate students, and unfortunately also from colleagues, and decades ago from a colleague at Cal Poly Pomona. Okay, that's enough about the bad old days. It's gotten a lot better with respect to that now. So I think I will just pass on to the next person who's going to be talking, which I think we're done with this question. We're done with this question.
Okay, thanks so much for sharing that. We can all have social issues, and that we can overcome them with determination, and establish how important it is to establish a network, and that there are people out there who can help you, but also you can help others as well.
If I can just get back and add one thing to that.
Sure, yes, please.
I talked about some of the bad things that people told me, but I should mention it was very much of a push, and that as many people went out of their way to be very supportive to me as a female, as went out as, you know, sort of put me down or discriminated against me because I was female. So it evened it out over the long run. That's the thing I wanted to add.
That's excellent. We will go ahead and move on to question 3. Question 3, what is one of the significant moments that stands out for you in your career? And we'll start with Mary.
Okay, I guess I shouldn't have even muted myself in the meantime. I have got an answer that probably is going to be about less than 10 words long. So 2 of the significant moments in my career was getting hired at Cal Poly and getting tenure. That's it. I pass it on to Jeff.
Significant moments. I'll consider that highlights. But two come to mind. Actually, a lot of things I've enjoyed. But one was, quite honestly, I really like geology and was doing field work in Papua New Guinea. And for anybody who's studied that, Australia is plunging under Papua New Guinea, and Papua New Guinea is rising, and you can see it in the rocks. It's quite spectacular. The topography is very, very stark. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm getting paid to do this. It's great. The other was I came to Washington on a diplomacy fellowship through the American Association for the Advancement of Science. And then since I've done that, I've done a lot of policy work in my career. I got the opportunity to testify before the Senate Energy Committee. And I'll tell you, that's a pressure cooker. if I remember testifying on energy and roadless areas, but it was a situation where somebody asked me to ask what's 2 + 2. I would have really had to think about it. It's very nerve-wracking. But in retrospect, it was a lot of fun. Had policy impact, and I think my preparation in university and in the workaday world prepared me to respond there. Nerve-wracking, but I came away with a felt sense that I'd contributed to the process. Mohammed?
For me, the significant moment was when I got my license in Canada to be a chartered accountant. That's something I always wanted to be. It was my goal in life as a young kid to be somebody with a license to be a chartered accountant. Then, of course, coming from Canada to United States, got my CPA. Those were the significant moment in my professional career. As far as coming, I had always, as I said, all my time as working for a firm, I always look for what are the people doing and how are they getting ahead in life. And when I acquired my first property, and that has to be something like 55 years, 52 years ago, or something like that. And I was very proud of it that I own a piece of real estate. And, over the period of time, I just realized that as long as you have a passion and a vision, and you just apply that, as to whatever you want to do, you would definitely be successful. And I think that was for me, significant moment was really achieving what I wanted to achieve. Thank you.
I was going to ask Nidra to go back and answer some of the questions. Particularly, I'd like to hear her response to question number 1, which is, how did you decide to embark on your career?
So I attended Cal Poly for undergrad, and I was always hoping I could make it through college and I'd be the first generation college grad. I felt a lot of pressure on my shoulders, a lot because, not because my family expected it, but because I expected it of myself. But I didn't really have a roadmap or people that I could turn to at that time. I didn't have what I thought was a network. So I was always needing money as well. So I took the opportunity to do the work study program when I was a junior, I think it was, to get some work experience because I knew I'd need a job right away. And I was always stressed out about school loans, which I had some of. And so that work experience actually was really important because it got me my first full-time employment as a regular employee. And then I wanted to go back to school, to graduate school. And so I worked for a year and then I went to graduate school. Thought I was going to get a doctorate in chemistry, found that at the doctoral level, I did not enjoy chemistry, but I love chemistry, just not that much. Ultimately, it would be public health that would be where I could study at the doctoral level and feel excited about it. But I did learn that I was able to get a position after getting my master's in chemistry because I had that work experience between Cal Poly and that 1 year before graduate school. So that's kind of how I embarked. I saw a flyer in the hallway back in the day when things were paper. And I applied to the position, sent my resume, and got the job. So that's kind of how I matriculated into the workplace. Yes. Are there any questions from the students? And I'm not sure where we are for time. Let's see.
We're doing great on time. So
Oh.
for the students, feel free to either raise your hand or put your question in the chat box, whatever you're comfortable doing. Okay, panel, we have a question from Ray. Ray is asking, was there ever times when you felt uncertain about your career? And how did you deal with that uncertainty?
I can respond to that.
Go ahead, Nikki.
Yes, there were lots of times. One of the things we talked about was social, social things. And I think it goes back to identity. I mean, for myself, I'm female, yes. And I also have, I don't necessarily identify with it, but it's a medical fact that I do have a disability, that my eyes aren't perfect. And they cannot be corrected to 20/20. And so it's just a congenital thing and something that I have to live with. But those things, and also being from a minority population, those things made me feel insecure. Not to mention at the time when I was in the workplace, I saw a lot of layoffs. I think it's a lot less popular, and companies aren't doing it as much as they did in the past, where you just come in on Friday and you had a pink slip on your desk and that was just normal. And people were always afraid. And so I was afraid too, because not only was I the new person on the block, so to speak, early in my career, but I also had these things that I thought if people knew, they might decide, well, she's low-hanging fruit to get rid of her, and there's no particular climate to protect that. So I spent a lot of time fearing. So what did I do about that? I had this mantra that I developed: is my resume updated and are my bills paid? And it really helped me to focus on making sure that I did the things to create a safety net in case I needed it. I saved up my vacation, because you get paid out for your vacation. If you work in California, you must be paid by employer law for all vacation accrued. So I did that as a safety net. I tried to then start to network so that if anything happened, I would have some people that I could contact and at least talk to about advice, give me advice, maybe even review my resume for grammatical errors or just give me tips. So the network, and those are some of the things that I did to protect against the insecurity of job loss.
I can amplify on that. I would say in terms of uncertainty, embrace it. The world's uncertain and it's not going to get more certain. And I think the more one embraces it, you'll develop defense mechanisms so when things come up, you can diversify. I run a small business and we're always looking out to see what we can be doing in the next number of months or next year. But somehow you thread the needle, somehow you get through it. You have to have a plan. I think in terms of a career choice, I think STEM is excellent because you can always diversify off that into other things. As I said, it gives you a very good toolkit in which to diversify. It's very hard to go the other way if you take something that isn't quite as rigorous, and employers will look at an individual and see how they can apply themselves. And their background means a lot, and also how they achieved it, how they went about school and that sort of thing. So I'll leave it there.
Mary or Mohammed, would you like to answer the question? If so, please unmute yourselves.
I think you have to just stay focused. When I came to Canada, my peers or the friends of mine were making sometimes 2 or 3 times my salary because I'm working for a firm, which they call it apprenticeship or articleship. I was getting maybe 40% of what my friends were making. And of course, I was always very envious of them and said, geez, maybe this is not for me. And do these guys are doing, working in a private industry and making twice as much or more than me. The only reason kept me, it was a focus. It's something you wanted to achieve, the sense of achievement. And those friends are still there. And I think I have done all right. I look back, I think it was the right thing to do. You just don't walk away from what you believe you can do in future. And that has really helped me. I'm done, Nidra.
Okay. Any other questions from the students?
Yes, I'm gonna put a couple here together. So one question is related to possibly taking a gap year. What advice would you have for students that are taking a gap year between undergraduate and graduate school in terms of being productive and staying on track? And then I'm gonna tie that with another question that when you're ready, I guess, to go out into the career field, what's something about yourself that you think made you stand out from the other candidates when it was time to apply for a job?
I can take that question, and I'm a prime example. When I did the graduate school at McGill, I had 1 year to get my MBA. And I said, no, maybe I'm gonna take 1 year and make some money and then go back to graduate school. That has been, I would say, almost more 40 years ago, 44 years ago, or something like that. I never went back. So whenever there is something, continuity is very important. If you take a gap between your undergrad and graduate study, you always, it's so hard to go after a year or 2 years or whatever the period you may decide to do that. So my advice, as personally, I never got that MBA, which I always wanted it, because I wanted to have a little bit of a good life also. So please stay focused on that.
I have some thoughts.
Okay.
So I guess you could say I did take a gap year because I did graduate from Cal Poly and I worked for 1 year. But I knew that I wanted to go back to school. But, you know, let's face it, life happens. You meet someone, you fall in love, you decide to have a family. I mean, any number of things can happen in life. I mean, 18 to 22, those years are just amazing and dynamic in terms of what happens in life. So, but you know, if your circumstances permit, then you know, try to focus on going back to school. For myself, you know, I mean, I don't know if it's okay to tell your age these days, and when I was younger, it wasn't. But I'm 55 years old, and I didn't finish my doctorate until I was 52. So what I did was I went to school off and on until I got where I wanted to go. Whereas some of my fellow schoolmates finished their doctorates at age 26. I was twice their age. It didn't really hurt me because as long as you're doing something productive toward your field of study or your interest, then you're fine. Always try to make progress. If you take off a year, make sure you do something that you can utilize. I didn't stay there for a year, but when there was an opportunity to go to Cuba as a US citizen, I had the opportunity twice. I went with a medical delegation and learned all about the healthcare practices in Cuba, fundamental to my doctoral program. Also, even career-wise, I like to write, and I had an opportunity to work as a medical writer. So it was still vaguely in the field, but definitely a different field. Writing is different than when you're working in a laboratory environment or you're working in where you're dealing with laboratory and manufacturing data. So I did that for a year and a half, and then I decided I do not want to be a writer for my career. I don't want to switch it permanently, so I'm going to go back to where I came from, so to speak. But I did that segue. And so just have a mindset that whatever you do, it's going to build upon what you've done before, also where you want to be so that you bridge. So you just think strategically all the time. Even if you take a vacation, if you can choose where you're going, make sure you choose it aligned with some goal you have in the future that you can fit it in. And that's what I've tried to do in terms of gap career, gap year for school, and so forth.
I'll just jump in quickly and echo the prior comments. I think I've been on both sides. I've been interviewed, getting a job, and now I'm in position, I often interview people. As far as gap years and standing out, I think if, reflecting on what Nidra said, if you can show progression toward a goal, and that can be in your career and I think in contributing to society in general, those are important marks to market that will serve you well. On the other hand, if you weren't doing something productive, then it's harder to explain, quite honestly, and people will ask about that. But it's not a lost cause. I guess just account for yourself, and attitude counts for a lot. And if you're willing to demonstrate that you can contribute, then employers will look favorably on you.
To add to something that Jeffrey said, I think as far as gap years go, having also been in a position where I was looking at people who were applying for a job, in this case, a teaching job, the one thing that you don't want on your resume is a gap. If you took a gap year, have something to put on it. Like either you worked in the field or even if you just traveled, but don't just leave something where your experience goes from 2025 and then there's a gap and then picks up again in 2027. People are going to look at that and wonder what you were doing. Is this person in jail, or do they fall off the face of the earth? So don't have any gaps in your resume is the big thing of that.
We have another couple of questions here. How much are you expected to know coming out of graduate school when you start your first career, or does most of the learning actually come on the job?
I'll jump in and answer that. I think it depends on where you're headed. If you're headed to academia, I think it's you will use the basis, the foundation of your university training. But if you go if you're not in academia, in the workaday world, in business, I think the people will look at your skill set from the standpoint of its utility in application to problems that an organization is facing, business or some other organization. So I don't think you're expected to know so much specific things, although in my field, I do expect candidates to have a certain rudimentary knowledge of science and physics and math and that sort of thing, programming and, you know, the general STEM skill set. But it's not specific. Often it depends on the company. There are software packages people become conversant, but I'll be honest, these days, software packages can be very well designed, and a good skilled analyst can adapt to a different software package, even if they aren't a subject matter expert in that particular field. So there's a lot of flexibility there. So I wouldn't worry it too much about coming out of school and being knowledgeable about what you're going to be doing on the job. You'll learn on the job. You will. If you aren't, then probably it's a forced fit, and it won't succeed.
Anybody else like to provide some insight into that question?
I guess I would add that it's good to not come into the workplace actually acting as if you know everything. It's okay not to. I think the important thing is to really have that sort of hunger, curiosity for knowledge, and that you're seeking out people, because there are those people who just naturally they're mentors, and just naturally they want to share with you, and they just love having someone that they can impart their years of wisdom that they've gathered. You're unique because I think for the first time, you know, you come in knowing some things that people who are seasoned professionals don't know, because you grew up in the age of technology that many in the older generations are still striving to learn. And so you bring something already to the table, and that's something you can partner with what you do know, and be inquisitive about what you don't know. That can get you well-grounded in your career, and even moving forward in your career.
So there's another question from the students. My friend has recommended getting certifications after school while working to help fill out a resume, especially if you don't have a lot of experience. But is having a job in the field more important?
I can take a stab at it. I think it's good to do both. For example, I've gotten certifications while working. The nice thing about it is sometimes the company pays for them, because they usually cost a couple $100s. And then if you want to have like a study session with the group, you know, that can cost a little bit of money too. I mean, maybe $100 or $50 or something like that. But if you align yourselves with professional organizations that offer these certifications, like the American Society for Quality, and there are others, that's a great way to network and also get your certifications. And it's something that's known by employers, and they often will have a corporate sponsorship where employees can be members, and that saves you a little bit of money, but also they'll pay for it as your continuing education. So it's not so bad to think about doing both at the same time, working and doing certifications.
Jeff, you're on mute.
Have I been on mute?
Yes.
Sorry about that. On the question, the implication of the question seems to be choosing between certifications and jobs. I would choose a job and get the certification in your spare time as you go along. It's something that can be done. Typically, it's not a full-time activity, and that in looking at candidates, I think it's better to have somebody who has experience in the field, and then somebody who has experience and certification. If you have just certification, at least you haven't got the experience.
Hey, here's another question. How do you navigate conflicts within peer groups, such as in research?
Well, I can take a stab
Go
at
ahead.
answering. Or
Go
Jeff?
for it.
Okay. I was going to say, literally, I was asked that as an interview question. Actually, the question was, how do you define conflict? And my boss later told me that the executive committee who interviewed me was so astounded by the answer, loved the answer, and I got the position. And I basically said an answer to what is a conflict. I said it's a difference of opinion. I think we need to be comfortable with conflict and view it as a difference of opinion. Doesn't mean we have to arrive at the same opinion. It just means that we seek to understand the other. I think don't expect to go through your career without conflict, but at the same time, try not to cause it, you know, especially if it's more like drama and less like the conflict that's needed to really work toward a goal. And listen to your colleagues and articulate your thoughts, and together look for the win-win. And if you find that it's sort of deteriorating into something other than achieving a goal on behalf of your endeavor, a project or the company, whatever it might be, if it starts to deteriorate from that, then you be the one who says, okay, let's get back on track. Here's the reason why we're here. Here's what, you know, what we need to arrive at a solution for. The conflict's okay, but let's see if we can, you know, at least establish a path forward, and staying focused on that. I think that's how I've tried to approach conflict. It's inevitable, but there's a way to make it work for the better.
I'll just echo that, Nidra, you answered it quite well. I think just recognize that there will be a difference of opinion and that you can work through it.
Okay, here's another question. If you could start over in your career, what would you do differently?
I can say I won't change it for the world. Okay, I'm very happy for what I'm doing, and it has given a lot of happiness, even to the going through certain conflicts while going to. I always felt that I saw the end of the line of anything which was a conflict or something like that. I really wouldn't do anything different than what I'm doing right now.
I'll echo that. I set out wanting to do certain things, and it's worked out. I can't complain.
Yeah, I feel the same. Even when I've been thrown curveballs, for example, I was working at a great company, had a great position, everything was going well. I had an immediate family member become so critically ill. From one second to the next, okay, maybe that's an exaggeration. From 10 minutes to the next 10 minutes, for about 3 months, I was never certain whether my loved one was going to live or not. It was just that critical and dynamic an illness, unlike I had never experienced before. And when a couple of doctors independently suggested hospice, I decided to leave that position, and there was a recession going on at the same time. And one could say, wow, you know, I wish that had never happened. But it did. The thing is, though, the events that took place since that time have actually put me in a better place. So I think, you know, the panelists brought out today flexibility and just taking what comes, but never losing sight of your goal is something that's going to carry you through. And at the conclusion of your work life, you will not have regrets.
So I know technically hour is over. We did schedule this to go until 1 o'clock. If you need to depart, we completely understand. I was going to ask one final question to finish us out. And again, I did put my contact information into the chat. If you have any questions, you know, after the event is over and you'd like to get in touch with any of the panelists, please feel free to contact me and I can put you in touch with them. So to close us out today, to all of the panelists, what advice would you give your younger self?
It'll all work out in the end.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree.
I think my advice to all this is stay focused, follow your vision or your passion. And it, as Mary said, it will all work out.
I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Well, I'd like to thank all of the students for joining us today and all of the panelists for your wonderful words of wisdom as we depart our very first Dean's Circle Special Event Career Panel event. As I mentioned, this event is being recorded, so once we can get it closed captioned and uploaded, we'll be sure to let everybody know. And again, if you have any additional questions after the event, please feel free to contact me and I'll put you in touch with the panelists. So again, thank you all for joining us today. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Please continue to be safe and stay well.
Thanks to all the
Bye-bye.
students. Bye.
Thanks, students. Thanks, panelists.
Thank you.